I guess this is where I have to say something. Let's let the beat ride for a minute. Oh man, let me stop acting silly. But yo, what's up everyone? How you doing? It's your boy Walterdoom back for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror, and this is episode 17 here. And I hope you guys are feeling good. I mean, we a couple of days away from Cinco de Mayo. I hope not everybody is still hungover and shit. Oh man, I know I'm supposed to be watching my mouth, and I said this the last podcast. I'm supposed to watch my mouth because I don't want to have to worry about these YouTube algorithms cutting me out and all that. But hey, I mean, whatever. Are they gonna strike me for just saying shit one time? Oh man. But anyway, how you guys doing? I'm doing fine myself, if anyone cares. Just went through this whole weekend tired. I mean, honestly speaking, I was working on this episode for quite a minute, and I thought I was gonna have this ready and going and recording during the weekend, but ended up getting like the lazy bug and what have you. But I told myself today, which is a couple of days after Cinco de Mayo, by the way. Well, actually, it's really just the day after. let me stop capping. It's the day after. Yeah, it's the day after Cinco de Mayo, and I'm pretty much recording just to bring it out a couple of days later, just for you guys. But I thought I was going to record during the weekend because I was trying to aim for trying to get this out on a Monday, but ended up getting so tired and so lazy I just couldn't work through it. I mean, I kept falling asleep. I took naps. I would say getting distracted is an excuse, but honestly, getting distracted is an excuse because I was still focused on doing other things as well, besides trying to work on this episode. But I mean, I got it done. I got the outline done. Got my thoughts together. And yeah, I'm ready to get this show on the road. What about you, Freddie? Yeah, I had to play that one time because we didn't get a chance to really hear him last time. And I kind of feel awful about that because lately I've been cutting him out in the theme and what have you. But well, just because of the whole algorithm issues. And now I'm just thinking, whatever. You know what? Fuck all that. So yeah, I mean, you guys are just gonna get a whole bipolar thing with me. I mean, one day I might be trying to watch my language. The other day I might be just like, fuck that shit. But I'm trying to make this less profanity laden as much as possible. But no promises, no promises. But anyway, so last week, our favorite show has ended, The Act. Aired its final episode on Wednesday. I caught it on Tuesday as always because it runs on East Coast Standard Times. And if you guys are either watching it at midnight for those who are on the West Coast like I am, if you're watching it at midnight, you guys are really messing up right there because you could catch it not 12 o'clock in the morning. I mean at 9 o'clock at night. Now, the only reason why I would say anybody could catch it at 12 o'clock is if you're on the East Coast. And I noticed, like, not first time, but maybe like a couple of weeks into the show, I was looking for the next episode. Because someone told me like the third episode was out and the third and fourth episode were out, and I was like, no, it's only been 3 episodes. So I was looking to see if the 4th episode was already out. The 4th episode wasn't out. And in a caption, a little small caption, it told me, we'll be up 9 o'clock on this day, which was a Tuesday. So I was like, I could watch this on a Tuesday? Bet. So yeah, ever since then, I mean, learning about that, I caught the show on Tuesdays and don't regret it for 1 second. But that's just a little side note. But anyway, yeah, they filmed the final, well, they premiered. I said filmed. They didn't film it. It's already been filmed. But they finally showed the final episode, which was titled Free. And in this episode, it's literally about the court case with Gypsy and Nick going to court, and they're facing whether they're going to face the death penalty in this episode. Also in this episode, we see that Lacey and Mel, who are Gypsy's neighbors, they're kind of like sorting out their feelings about Gypsy and her mom in the situation that has caused Gypsy to commit such heinous act. Now, I'm going to give you guys a few takeaways from the show, my thoughts about it, recaps and what have you. Alright, so we're going to not only talk about the show, but after I'm done talking about the show, we're going to talk about the real life situation and my total feelings about the whole thing, because I've been kind of saying how I felt about the situation, but I've been also kind of holding back. So, anyway, let's move on to the takeaways. First off, a couple of takeaways that you'll get from the show is 3 takeaways. We get to see the kind of unbalanced relationship between Gypsy and Nick and their feelings and what they both want in the relationship. Another thing that we see is Gypsy finally coming in contact with her dad and kind of getting a few truths, harsh truths about her father that her mom was not really giving her because he was not around. Not only that, because she was very young. A third takeaway, we get to see also Lacey and Mel kind of both on unstable terms on how they both feel about Gypsy's situation, where Mel feels like that she deserves the electric chair or the death sentence, where Lacey is kind of coming to terms or kind of like understanding Gypsy's situation. So those are the takeaways. Let's kind of go into details about those takeaways that I'm talking about, which are the takeaways that I saw in the show. So first takeaway, let's talk about Gypsy and Nick's relationship for a moment. So we're brought into the episode with them in court, and Gypsy and Nick are pleading not guilty to this case. We kind of see throughout the episode, Gypsy is still trying to come to grips about what has happened. And Nick, he's still kind of like in his own little world about the relationship. So Nick, he puts in Gypsy's head that they're going to ride this out like Bonnie and Clyde. Now, Gypsy knows nothing about Bonnie and Clyde because all she ever been surrounded by were just Disney movies. So Bonnie and Clyde is not really a Disney character for her or anything like that. Later in the episode, she realizes that when Nick was talking about Bonnie and Clyde, she found out in the story of Bonnie and Clyde that they rode together in death, that they both died together. And from there, we actually see where Gypsy didn't want that. she does not want to be dead. She doesn't want to die from the abuse that she received from her mother, and also the abuse that she is now receiving from Nick, which you can say it is kind of like abuse, because he put her in this situation. Not only that, he has kind of abused her mind with the ideas of BDSM and these characters that he created in his own head that she is trying to live up to. Well, I guess we won't say abuse, but I mean, it's more of a controlling situation. So, yeah, the delusions that Nick has, Gypsy is trying to live up for. But she realized after she learns about the deaths of Bonnie and Clyde, she can't live through that situation anymore. As a matter of fact, the little homie Chucky said it best.
What are you, fucking nuts?
And that is really the truth about it. I mean, she found it nuts. I mean, but not only that, in the episode, she also is at that point of learning that the jury could find them guilty and sentence them to death. Now for her, she didn't want to be convicted to a death sentence. And honestly, living a life where she was in prison the whole time, her whole entire life from her mother, doesn't seem like that's a right ruling for her, or a right sentence. So what she needed was her medical records to kind of help her out. And this is what her lawyer told her in the episode, is that she needed her medical records to kind of show that her mother was abusing her mentally, physically, and emotionally. But the only way she could get that is through her dad, which we have to talk about later on. But it's just interesting in this episode is that with Gypsy now in jail, she's realizing how cold the world really is. She is also realizing that now that she's not in a wheelchair, how hurtful the world can be and their thoughts about her. Where she saw everything in a rose-colored lens because she was always in a wheelchair and everybody is so nice to her, well, were so nice to her because she was in a wheelchair and because she had an incurable disease and disabilities. She now sees that it just wasn't her mother who was the cold one. And it's funny, I said this in last episode, how Gypsy kind of sees how cold the world could be in that last episode, Bonnie and Clyde, where she had to deal with the waitress who wasn't very patient with her. And I'm pretty sure she went to plenty of restaurants where waiters and waitresses were patient just because she was in a wheelchair. Now she's not in a wheelchair. And now she's being seen as just another person. And this goes back to what I was saying before in last episode, how it's funny, and I mean not funny, haha, but funny, ironic, how human nature tends to treat each other. How if you're sick and have a disease, a physical, I mean, that people will treat you different compared to if you're just another person on the streets. And it's funny also, and it kind of brings me to a conversation I was having with a friend, how people would treat somebody with a mental disorder or a mental health issue very badly on the streets compared to somebody who is in a wheelchair or has a cane or has like some kind of physical disability. It was funny because my friend was telling me about how he ran into some person with a mental disorder, and everybody kept saying how this dude was either on drugs or high or whatever. And what he did was he kind of just walked with the guy, talked to the guy for a little bit. And after he was talking to the guy, he said the guy kind of calmed down. And he was feeling a little bit better. But the sad ending was, after he was done talking to the guy, the cops pretty much arrested him. And for my friend, he actually learned it's kind of messed up how people are actually humans. Well, actually, same thing. Humans and people kind of treat people with different disabilities a certain way. And honestly, you don't have to have a disease or a disability to have some certain kind of treatment. I mean, it's just the way humankind treats each other. And it's funny to me because in life, I try and treat everybody equally as much as possible. But there are sometimes those people that just, you don't know what's wrong with them, but they want to push your buttons for some reason, which makes no sense at all. But those people that are pushing buttons is because they kind of lack something at home. Whether it's love, whether it's attention, who knows? And the same could be for Gypsy also, who was very sheltered, or actually not even sheltered, but it was more of a manipulation from her mom, because she had to go and see through her doctors, the judges, the jury, and even just like the inmates in the prison with her, how not so friendly they really are and how unfriendly people can be. Which was definitely an interesting moment to see. I mean, I don't know if you guys kind of caught that moment, but I mean, it's not hard to see, but it definitely was something interesting to see, because I felt like with her, she thought killing her mom would just end all the pain and horror that she was going through, until she actually killed her mom and ended up in jail and was able to walk on her 2 feet and see how not so friendly a lot of people are in life. Oh, man. But the one person that really was trying to be there for her, which she was kind of distancing herself from, just because she heard bad things about, and she was very adamant about that, was her dad. And we see in the episode, her dad comes and brings the medical records that she needs. And he kind of points out all the documents that were pretty much forged by her and kind of manipulated by other doctors so that she could get her way with Gypsy. Now, Gypsy couldn't really believe anything that her father was saying, but I don't know, in real life, I mean, at this point, they're actually in a good space, and you can see it in the documentaries. But it was kind of interesting to kind of see the dynamics between their relationship when they finally meet each other. And I'm pretty sure it's not easy either, just after hearing all the negative things about this person. And he had to explain to her, like, she's been manipulating a situation for the longest. She manipulated him. He was only 17 when he married her. That's crazy, right? I mean, is that even legal? I'm just wondering what pushed him to actually have sex with her unprotected, have a baby with her, marry her. I mean, honestly, to me, he did the right thing trying to marry her and trying to make things right so the girl won't grow up without a father. It's right. It's right in a way, but at the same time, it was wrong because this woman just took advantage of you. Clearly, she did. And she clearly was still taking advantage of the relationship after the fact when she kept moving away and just moving to different places. Now, 17, I mean, when you're 17, I mean, I can't say I was making all the smart decisions at 17. So if I was in a situation like this, I probably would have did the same thing too. Honestly speaking, it's crazy. But just to see that happen, and he kind of explains the situation. I mean, he tried to do all the right things, and it's so messed up that being an outsider looking in on the story, that Gypsy didn't want to believe him. And it's crazy how, like, even though she knows how manipulative her mom was, she was still clinging to the fact of, no, my mom is right. No, she didn't deserve this. You're wrong, this, that, and the other. I don't know. For me, I just feel like if I was in that position, thinking what I'm thinking, I would have probably believed him more than believing her. Just because I know the situation. And that's crazy that she was in a situation, but she didn't want to believe him. It's like, you know how manipulative your mom is. How are you still not believing your dad? And that's just abandonment issues right there, man. I'll tell you one thing. I didn't like the fact that he had to really, like, persuade her or convince her that she was that manipulative. It's so crazy. But that's one issue that I was just like, man, it's sad to see. But moving on to the third takeaway was Lacey and Mel. Now, they both have differing viewpoints on this, and we get to see that in the episode. We get to see that Lacey is more, I guess, sympathetic to Gypsy's situation. She starts learning and remembering about things that she told her. She even feels bad that she even told Gypsy about that dating website where she herself had met her boyfriend from. I mean, she felt guilt for that. But honestly speaking, I mean, she didn't really need to feel guilty because what happened, I mean, I felt like it was years in the making, no matter what. I mean, it's like, how would you feel if your parent was doing all these things? Forcing you in a wheelchair, starving you, abusing you, all those many years. It's crazy. I mean, we'll probably feel more like Mel, who just really didn't give a shit, and she was just angry, period. I mean, it was crazy when she actually went to the jail and actually visited Gypsy, and you just kind of see that tension between them, how Mel is kind of struggling with how she feels about Gypsy, because all she sees is that little girl who was in a wheelchair, but yet she can't help but feel like she conned her. Like, she really conned her. And Gypsy, you know, she's just sitting there And I was hoping Gypsy said something like, hey, this isn't all me. But she really didn't quite really defend herself in any kind of way. But that's the show. I mean, the show kind of ends with Gypsy back in jail, and she kind of like lays up on her mother. And, well, it's supposed to be like the ghost of her mother. And I didn't really like that little cheesy ending. I mean, honestly, they could have ended it a better way. Because, I mean, even if they did end it like that, they could have just showed like her crying by herself in a more morose fashion than that little cheesy trying to make people tear up kind of way. That's supposed to be a tearjerker, but in a way I was just like, what is this shit? This is not gonna make me tearjerk in any type of way. They're trying to. What was the tearjerker though was hearing that Fiona Apple song, Why Try to Change Me Now, while she was actually trying to leave from after the murder. Yeah, that was really a tearjerker to me. And I don't know, maybe because of the song, maybe because of the melody and how it was played. But maybe it's also from the fact that she was also becoming a butterfly in a way, and that she was freeing herself from her cocoon of a prison, which was her mom. But it came in the cost of her mom dying in order for her to become free. But yeah, I found that one very tear-jerky. if that's the word to put it. But yeah, that one was a tear-jerker. My feelings though, I'm still disappointed that we still didn't get to see the actual act. I'm still upset by that. I still feel cheated. This is the second time they cheated us from seeing the actual murder. And not only that, not only were we just cheated from that, we're also cheated from the real life situation of what happened, because in that moment, if you watch any documentary or read about it or heard about the real life situation, you would know that Nick tried to rape her mom after the fact. And they didn't even include that at all in the show, which I found very interesting considering how unstable Nick was. But I don't know. But the show is over. What we're gonna do right now, we're not gonna take a break, but we are gonna transition into the things about the show and the real life and how they correspond with each other. Because I got a few things and thoughts in my head. How I feel about everything that has happened. Alright, so first thing first, what I want to concentrate on was Gypsy's world and how much of the show was really related to the real life situation. So first off, let's talk about Gypsy's ailments. Now, we know that Gypsy was categorized with a lot of disabilities and diseases: muscular dystrophy, leukemia, epilepsy, seizures. You know, just to kind of scrape like some of the things that her mom was saying. Now, here's something that I found weird with the show, and I don't know why they took this kind of take. So we all remember the one episode where we were introduced to Dee Dee's mom. I believe that was still Bonnie and Clyde, wasn't it? Or was it A Whole New World? No, it was A Whole New World. That's what episode it was. It wasn't Bonnie and Clyde. It was A Whole New World. So it was the episode A Whole New World. Now, remember in that episode, we saw that Gypsy ended up in a wheelchair because she fell off a trampoline. Now, honestly speaking, no one ends up on a wheelchair from falling off a trampoline. Maybe you break like an arm or something, but not to where you get paralyzed and you end up in a wheelchair. Now, in a real life situation, which I wish they kind of did put in the show, was Gypsy actually was in a motorcycle accident with her grandfather, which was not Gypsy's dad, but Dee Dee's dad. And she had a mild scrape on her leg. She got scraped, like little minor injuries. I don't know about a scrape on her leg, but she had minor injuries. So, according to the documentary that was on HBO, Dee Dee actually put her in a wheelchair. And it wasn't even a wheelchair that her mom was in. It was like a random wheelchair that she found. Now, I believe that's fucked up in so many ways. It's like, you're going to claim that she is disorder and that she has to be in a wheelchair now, but you give her this random ass wheelchair that she has to be in? Like, what the hell? It's so weird that happened. Yeah, that's just crazy just to give her just a random wheelchair. But not only that, it's just the amount of drugs that she was also administered. Like, when you learn this in the Dr. Phil episode, if you watch the Dr. Phil episode with Gypsy, she actually talks about how, like, all those diseases, well, not all those diseases, but all those medications that she was given actually caused her teeth to fall out. So in that episode, teeth, I honestly thought it was just from her actually using her teeth for the first time. I don't know how many of you guys actually thought that too. But after watching Dr. Phil and actually understanding the situation, it actually makes sense that it was the medications that she was taking caused her teeth to physically fall out of her mouth. And it's like, you have to think about it as like a person who takes a lot of drugs, like crack, meth. What usually happens to those people when they use those drugs a lot? They end up losing their teeth. Like, addicts end up losing their teeth just like that because they don't take care of themselves anymore. And because of the drugs themselves, they actually cause their teeth to fall out. So I just found that very interesting to see. And in the show, just to see like, oh, she was kind of like eating a lot of junk food, a lot of sugary stuff, and she wasn't brushing afterwards. Honestly, that wasn't enough to make her teeth fall out. And maybe accelerate at that point. But it wasn't enough to make her actual teeth fall out. And it was just so weird to see that in the show that they would kind of dramatize it up. And that's just one thing that was annoying also, was this dramatization of like certain events. Especially with the Wolverine episode. They could have made that episode a lot less dramatic than what it was. But it did stick to the facts about how Gypsy did meet this guy at a Comic-Con convention. I was about to say that. But she did meet a guy at a Comic-Con type convention. I was about to say that shit again. Bro, what is going on today? Chucky, what's going on?
What are you, fucking nuts?
Maybe I am, bro. I don't know. I did say I was nuts last time. But anyway, yeah, we see it from the Wolverine episode, how she met a dude, and she literally was about to give herself away to this man by running away to him because she could. She was 19 at that point. One thing that the show kind of left out, which they could have included, was her punishment. And we learned from the documentary on HBO that her punishment was really severe. The most that we got was the atmosphere of how severe her punishment was going to be. When in reality, her punishment was really fucked up if you think about it. So according to the documentary, she says she was actually tied to the bed for several days and was left to starve. It's really fucked up in every way possible. But what the show leaves out is that they all kind of knew this guy already, in a way, because he was just somebody that was in town. You know, their neighborhood that they lived in was really like not really a big city or anything like that. It was actually a small town. So everybody kind of knew each other in a way, almost in a way, but not fully. Like they thought they knew. Another thing, let's talk about like the characters before I go on to my next point. Was Mel. Since I talked about Mel earlier, the character Mel wasn't even a real character, which I'm actually disappointed on. I don't know how many of you guys are actually disappointed about that, but I'm kind of disappointed that Mel wasn't a real character. She should have been a real character in my point of view. I wish she was, but I mean, honestly speaking, she was just an incarnation of everybody that was surrounding Gypsy and her mom during the time when they were living in Springfield. It's funny because I read an article about like what's going on in their neighborhood right now, that people are actually going to the house. Now, a lot of people are driving by the house, trying to check out the house and actually look inside the house and everything. And the neighbors don't like that shit. Because they feel like it's glorifying the murder itself, which you don't want to do. But I can understand people kind of are curious about seeing the house. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are going by seeing that house, they know where to find it. And yeah, just because like now they seen it in the show, everybody's going down there just to check it out. And I'm pretty sure there's people who don't even live in the town or even the state itself going down there just to check it out. Which is crazy. I mean, because it's like nothing good was happening in that house. Nothing good happened in that house. And man, I mean, that house is just full of sorrows now. I mean, I wonder what they're going to do with that house in the coming of years afterwards. I mean, I don't know if they're still going to put it on the market or what are they going to do with it? Because it's a house full of sadness now. Oh man. But yeah, I wish Mel was a real character. But speaking of that house, I wish there was more ways Gypsy actually could have thought about escaping from that house or from her mom. And that brings me to another question. Was escape really possible? I mean, as much as we all are like, there was a way to escape, we have to look and see, was escape really possible? In my opinion, I don't think that escape was possible. It was, but it wouldn't have ended well for Gypsy, in my opinion. Because keep in mind of who Dee was and what her character was, honestly speaking. Now, let's keep in mind that Gypsy did escape once, and her mom found her within an hour. That's crazy, bro. Like, she found her within an hour. What do you think is going to happen if Gypsy actually stood in front of the whole neighborhood exposing her mom for the scammer that she is. Or was, I should say. I mean, it was funny because she actually was talking to Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil actually mentioned this to her. He just asked her, like, why didn't you stand up for yourself, stood in front of everybody outside, and ended her game right then and there? Gypsy told her, well, not her, Gypsy told Dr. Phil she didn't even think about that. You know why she didn't think about that? Because that was never an option. Why that was never an option? The amount of abuse. And when you're in an amount of abuse like she was, certain things do happen, like Stockholm Syndrome. For those that don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is, it's basically finding comfort in a terrible situation. That you start developing sympathy for your abductor or abuser. And I'm pretty sure Gypsy did have a bit of Stockholm Syndrome with her mom. And even in the show, you could kind of see when she's talking about how her mom loved her and everything, she was still saying things about her mom that were just nothing but nice things, knowing for the fact that her mom abused her by letting her starve, tying her to a bed. And not only that, she actually hit Gypsy with objects. Now, can you imagine that? Like, you're out there lying about your child having cancer and that they're this sickly person. But in reality, you're abusing them mentally and emotionally and physically also. Gypsy mentioned that the abuse got so horrible to the point one time when she actually smashed her computer with a hammer after Gypsy ran away and she found her. She told Gypsy next time she does that, she'll break her hands with the hammer. That's crazy. So, in the same article that I was reading about how everybody was visiting the house, a question actually came up about, no, it wasn't about the house. It was an article about what was fact and what was fiction. And the one scene that was very debatable about was the scene when Nick actually called Dee Dee to tell her that him and Gypsy were in a relationship secretly for a couple of years. Now we find out that never really happened in real life. And according to Dee Dee's family member, she actually said, if that really happened in real life, we'll have a different story. And I believe that. Just based on how unstable Dee Dee was when she was dealing with Gypsy. Now the show kind of dresses up some of the abuse. I mean, we see the abuse, but we're seeing it in more of a Hollywood type fashion. But in reality, there was nothing really good about this abuse. And sad to say, it took Gypsy's savior, who is point number 3 right now that we're going to be talking about, because I got a lot to say about this motherfucker right here. It took Nick to help Gypsy get out of her situation. Now, I wouldn't call this motherfucker a saver or anything like that. But the more and more I was watching this show, the more and more I had to wonder, and the more and more I was digging through things about Nick. It just made me feel, was his punishment fair? Was it fair at all that he is now spending life in prison? Well, I heard it got reduced to 25 years. I haven't really researched that part. But if you guys know if it's really reduced, put it down in the comment section and let me know. But the last time I heard, this dude has life without parole. Honestly speaking, I don't think it's fair. I really don't think it's fair that he has to spend life and she is only spending 10 years, possibly 8 for parole or whatever. Now, I get that she was the victim of abuse, but what about him? I think he's a victim of abuse also. Or actually, he's a victim or a legit excuse of he has a mental disorder. The guy comes out and says he has multiple personalities in that interview or in that interrogation room with that cop. Now, yes, he did admit to murder. Yes, he did admit to doing a stabbing. But his reasons for doing it were not of malicious nature, but were more of he was trying to help this person. So why couldn't he spend at least like 15 or 25 like he is getting right now instead of life? And it's crazy. I don't know if they were really being tried for the death penalty. I haven't researched that part also to actually see, or actually I couldn't find anything that actually said they were being tried for the death penalty, but I'm pretty sure that was on the table. I'm just amazed how the judicial system kind of fucked this kid over in a way, because he was put in a very fucked up situation also. But according to Gypsy, the more I was reading about this situation, she said that this guy was pretty much in control. Even as crazy as he was, and people trying to make it seem like he wasn't that crazy. Or actually, no, the show is trying to make it seem like he wasn't that crazy. And according to like some of Gypsy's family, they say like in the show they try and portray him as this kid that doesn't mean to do all these horrible things, but finds himself in the middle of these situations doing it anyway. Now, my take on it is, before I was like, okay, I don't think it's too fair. It went from not too fair to his sentencing was fair. But now I'm back to it wasn't that fair because of the aftermath of everything that transpired from the situation. Because right now he's not even with Gypsy at all. And it really kind of bothers me that he threw his whole entire life, despite the 9-hour masturbation in McDonald's, which really did happen. Which I'm still wondering, like, who the fuck masturbates at McDonald's for 9 hours? But this young man literally had a mental issue that never got addressed. And if his family was anything like the family in the show, the family themselves probably had mental issues that they did not address or did not want to seek out help for because of financial reasons. And it just feels like the more I was looking at this show and the more I keep reading about these two people, or three people if we include Dee Dee, that life really did fail them in every single way possible. Especially with Dee Dee, who is the catalyst for everything that happened because of her upbringing with her mom, who in the show they try and make it seem like Dee Dee and her mom were at odds with each other. They weren't. They actually really got along just fine, and they were actually a mother-daughter duo of scammers. I mean, if you watch the HBO special, you kind of learn that they were not at odds with each other, but they were more of a mother-daughter team of scammers also. But yeah, for Dee Dee, her mental issues went unchecked even after her manipulating doctors and documents to get all these types of medications. No one couldn't see how messed up this woman was, or even just try to provide help for her. I mean, I understand that any doctor that spoke against her, she will flip the switch and try and go to another doctor so she could get what she wanted. But it's kind of messed up just to see how nobody really did try and stop her. And it sucks also that Nick, who had a mental disorder, multiple personality disorder, which is a real mental health issue, that his family couldn't really address his issues as strongly as possible. And it sucks that he seems like he's very contrite with the situation, in that he felt betrayed because Gypsy took a plea deal and he stuck to his guns, and now he had to spend life in prison for an action he did out of love. And it's crazy because he still loves her. I was reading an article in Bustle, and it talked about Nick and his feelings for Gypsy. And it mentions that he actually wrote a letter to her, and she just threw it away. I mean, honestly speaking, that shows you how much she really actually cared for this dude. Which is none at all. Zero fucks given. Right? It sucks because now he has to spend time for her. Which sucks. And not to say that we should all just feel sorry for him. I'm ranting on how I feel about him. I feel like it's fucked up because no one should spend time for anybody else's actions at all. And yeah, Nick should have been the better person to really be the person to go to the police and actually tell them what's what. He shouldn't have took the action upon himself. But I honestly think like he probably thought of going to the police. And I'm not going to say like he didn't think about it or he did. But I just can't see him being a person, or just any person at that, who are not already criminally involved in anything, just say things like, well, you know what? Why don't we just go to the police? I feel like he probably did suggest that. Because I can't say the guy was totally insane. I listened to the guy spoke on his interview with, I can't remember what news company he was speaking with, but I saw his web interview, and the way he spoke with such eloquence about the situation and his feelings towards Gypsy. I mean, he not once sounded high or incoherent or disoriented in any type of way. He actually spoke with such eloquence and detail to the point where you just hear him and you just think to yourself like, damn, he might have been manipulated, because now Gypsy has a new fiance. Oh man, fucking typical, right? Fucking typical. I swear, it just reminded me of back in the early 2000s when you got the real ass rap music and they rapped about guys going to jail and all that. Or even like the 90s also, 90s gangster rap, where like the guy goes to jail, they got their girlfriend outside of prison waiting on him. And what does she do? She hooks up with another motherfucker, either his best friend, cousin, enemy. Either way, someone close to him that she ends up hooking up with and having a relationship with them. And I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, that's really fucked up. Like, he's talking all this. You know, I want to help you out. I want to be there for you. We could be together, this, that, and the other. And I'm pretty sure, just like in the show, he sold her that dream. She took the dream. And now where is she? Waking up in a nightmare in prison. Oh, man. It's crazy. But it's like, for her, I don't know what she was expecting. Because it goes back to what I was saying when she was hooking up with Scott in the Wolverine episode. Is that her dating level is not anywhere a 20 plus year old or a 19 plus year old should be. Her level was literally a mentality of someone in elementary or middle school. Maybe even early high school, where you know, you get somebody and you're doing all this stuff with them and you're just giving up way too much too soon or too fast. And it's like, also for her to be disgusted at Nick, I mean, it's like, bitch, where'd you find him? You found him on the fucking internet. Fucking internet, right? Fucking internet dating. Fucking internet dating sites. They're so trash to me, I swear. I mean, that's just my personal opinion about it. I mean, I'm not saying like I never tried it. I tried a couple, mainly Tinder. Everybody has been on Tinder at least once. I mean, I don't know anybody that hasn't been on Tinder. And the shit is so fucking trash, I swear. I found this one chick one time. She was trying to proposition me. with a nice time out. You know what I did? I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Not really excited about it like that. I'm just like, okay, I'm just trying to see what you're about. I ain't on here on some thirst level shit. I mean, seriously. She was shocked that I wasn't even interested. I think I offended her so badly. I mean, have you guys ever offended somebody from rejecting to have sex with them? I mean, that was a first for me. That had to have been a first for me. I was just like, okay, I mean, you're trying to throw ass at me. I mean, okay, whatever. But that's just, oh man, that just goes to show you what dating on the internet could be like sometimes. It's a vicious network. It's definitely a vicious network and a vicious lifestyle. Nowadays, I just rather meet people IRL. I can't stand any more of this dating internet bullshit. I mean, after dealing with it so many years, I'm just like, nah, fam. I'm cool on that one. Oh man. Especially that last incident. I was just like, okay, this chick, I don't know what kind of herpes she's trying to spread out. But I ain't the one, chief. Oh man. It's so crazy. But yeah, she just met this dude on the internet. I don't know what kind of dude she was expecting. I believe Aaliyah, who is Lacey in the show, was the one who actually showed her the dating site. I don't know, that honestly, that never really was confirmed, to be honest. They never really confirmed who actually showed Gypsy the dating site. I mean, honestly speaking, I'm pretty sure she probably searched it up herself and was like probably on numerous dating sites. I don't know, but yeah, this show kind of dramatized a lot of shit. It actually was good that it did stick to the point of real life situations that did happen. Once again, the Wolverine situation was a real thing. Her being tied to the bed was a real thing. That was one cycle of abuse that they showed, but they really did not dig deep into the abuse, because we kind of look at that abuse, because, well, actually, not we. I'm going to speak for myself. I saw that abuse as just light abuse. I mean, it was abuse still, but the way they dramatized that abuse, they didn't dramatize it to the fact that this was happening often. Well, actually, no. Actually, that's a lie. That didn't happen often. Tying to the bed, and this was confirmed by Gypsy, that only happened once. Only once. And that was from the Wolverine incident. Now, the other types of abuse, like the mental, the starvation, and just the whole imprisonment act, those were real abuses that did happen. But I wish the show did kind of stick to the more harsher realities of what was going on. But again, I mean, it was a TV series that was probably meant for everybody to kind of like check out, feel some type of way for it, feel some sympathy or whatever. But it was a good show all in out. I liked the show. I mean, gave me something to talk about each week with you guys. Had some fun with it. Yeah. I'm just wondering now, what am I going to watch next? Oh, man. I'm thinking of watching Black Summer. That looks like an interesting show on Netflix that I could check out. Probably talk about with you guys. I'll probably finish the show Diabuelo and talk about that show as a whole when I'm done with it. But other than that, we're going to take a quick break right quick. And when I come back, we're going to talk about some news. And after we talk about the news, we're also going to talk about ranking the Into the Dark series, All That We Destroyed. And we're going to have the outro. So yeah, we'll be right back in a couple of seconds.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Alright, you guys, we're back now. Sorry for that long ass break. Oh my god, what am I talking about? But anyway, Excuse you guys, you might hear like some birds and shit or like a dog barking. I try my best to record at a time when all this activity isn't happening. But hey, what do you expect? This is the Ghetto Podcast, so we ain't in no soundproof room. This is real people shit. You know? So fuck it. But anyway, we're going to move on to the news right now. And in the first bit of news, we're going to talk about the Human Centipede. Right now, we're clocking in on its 10-year anniversary. It came out in 2009. And in an interview with Blade Disgusting, Tom Six talked to them about the 10-year anniversary dealing with Human Centipede and its disgusting trilogies. So in the interview, I mean, here's a few takeaways from the interview. One, he kind of mentions that he loves that there's no in between on how people feel about the film. It's either you hate it or you love it. And that he considers that what he does with those Human Centipede films as art. And that he wouldn't change a single frame. He also talked about in the interview that he is going to come out with a graphic novel to kind of companion with the first movie, and that right now he is working on a Human Caterpillar script, and that there might be some future Human Centipede movies coming out, which he also teased in the interview. Now, my thoughts about the Human Centipede is this. I always loved the Human Centipede films. I was never really disgusted by those films. I remember when I first heard about Human Centipede, it was in 2012, I believe. And I was talking about my love for the Saw movies. And someone told me, if you love Saw, try checking out Human Centipede. It was maybe until like 2014 when I finally got Netflix and I discovered Human Centipede was on Netflix. So I didn't know really what to expect when I first watched the first Human Centipede film. I was going in there really blindsided without any knowledge about what the movie was about. The only thing I knew was that people were eating human shit in the film. And by my surprise, I mean, I watched it and wasn't really disgusted by any of it. It is disgusting, in fact, but I was not really, grossed out by it. I mean, it maybe wasn't until the third Human Centipede film where I was truly and literally grossed out, because by then they were trying to outdo each other, or should I say, each movie tried to outdo the other with grossness and how much disgusting imagery Tom Six could really put into his film. So, I mean, when it comes to like the first two Human Centipede films, I really love the first two, especially the second one. I would say the second one is probably my favorite out of all three of them, because of the nature of how a movie kind of desensitizes a person and they take on the actions of life imitating art. It takes that kind of route, which was very interesting to me, which is not really a real thing in my opinion, but it was nice to see how a movie within a movie could kind of play out that whole narrative that everybody tries to blame violence in society for, which is like through music, movies, and video games. But I'm really interested in seeing if they are going to really make future Human Centipede movies. I am down to see what they come up with. I don't know about this Human Caterpillar movie because it kind of reminds me of the third film. And the third film was just really god awful. I mean, not only was it just over the top with I don't even know that guy's name. He played the scientist in the first one. But him and then the fat dude that was in the second one, who was like his, I guess, apprentice or whatever the fuck that dude was, because I know the dude, he was a sheriff, and the other dude was like, I don't know. I don't know what they call that dude. I forget what they call him. But it was just too over the top seeing what they were doing. And then it was just really over the top when they got to the Centipede scene. And it was just like all those prisoners attached to another prisoner's ass. And the shit scene was really gross in that one. I think that's where I really was just like, okay, this movie is just too much. I think that might have been the one movie that really disgusted me out of all those installments, besides watching Kuso. Oh my god, don't let me get started on Kuso. Flying Lotus, I don't know what the hell that motherfucker was thinking. But that was a disgusting ass film. I mean, one scene that really stuck out to me the most as far as all the gross shit that's happened in that movie, besides the fact that there was a scene where all these people what looked like herpes on their face. You know, they were licking each other on their herpes and all that and just rubbing the herpes on each other. But it was for the simple fact that those same people that had the herpes, a fucking boil started like talking to them. And the dude got his dick sucked by the boil. What the fuck, man? I guess if Tom Six needs anybody to do a soundtrack or any ideas for his next Human Centipede movie, he should really talk to Flying Lotus about that shit. Because that shit in Kuso was gross. Just as like the third Human Centipede movie. Moving next into our next topic of news. You know we always got to talk about Child's Play. You know we always got to talk about the homie Chucky. Chucky, what do you think about that one?
Don't fuck with the Chuck.
Okay, chill, dude. I won't fuck with you. But, yeah, you guys thought it was going to be the nuts one, right? Switch it on your ass real quick. Man. But, yeah, you know, we always got to talk about Chucky. And in this week for Chucky news, I feel like we should call this Chucky news. But in today's Chucky news, we're going to talk about the TV show. So in a tweet response on Twitter, Don Mancini actually confirmed that he is aiming for a 2020 release for the TV show, which is tentatively titled Chucky. And he didn't really say much about it, but his producer, Nick Antosca, who is producing the show, which I literally just said, I don't know why I repeated myself, he actually gave a little bit more details about the show. So, in his chat with Slasher Films, he told that the series is going back to the horror element tone that the first original series of Child's Play was with, and that they're ditching the over-the-top comedy or just the comedy aspects of it. Also, in the interview, he also mentioned that the story of the show is going to be in continuity with the Universal sequels, but the only thing is that they're going to have new characters in the show, which will also be a host of telling new stories in order to get like people who weren't actually watching the later movies kind of into the TV show. What he also mentions as far as Jennifer Tilly and Fiona Dourif, for those that are interested or curious if they're going to have any appearance on the show, he said that the door is open for them and that he is welcoming them to join the show however they please, but there is no confirmation that they are going to be prominent characters in the show because they're trying to tell new stories with new characters. And for those that are really just concerned about who's voicing Chucky on the TV show, since Mark Hamill is voicing Chucky in the new Child's Play remake, Brad Dourif is going to reprise his role as Chucky. Such a tongue twister, right? So here are my thoughts about the new Child's Play show. I mean, I can't wait to see this show. I don't have any cable or anything like that to watch it on Sci-Fi. Hopefully I can find some kind of rip torrents or something like that. You know how we do sometimes. For you guys out there who watch Game of Thrones a lot, but sure don't have the HBO app or anything like that. Yeah, but all kidding aside, I hope I could find some way to watch this show. Hopefully they do get this on like Hulu or something like that when the series is over and they are pretty much like on break and they're showing repeats and what have you, or if they show like new episodes, they bring the new episodes on the network that they're airing on, and they show all the old episodes on Hulu or Netflix. But I'm excited to see what this Child's Play show is about. I can't wait till it comes out. I'm kind of disappointed though with the Twilight series. Not Twilight as in like Edward Cullen and Kristen Stewart's bitch ass. But I'm talking about the Twilight Zone. I'm disappointed that it's all on the CBS app and that the only way to watch the Twilight Zone is on there. And I'm just like really not interested in getting another streaming app just because CBS wanted to be bitch ass people with airing this show. I mean, I literally thought this was going to be on CBS, but apparently not. And maybe it's for the best that they do this remake on a streaming service. But couldn't they just do this shit on like fucking Hulu or something like that? I mean, that would have been cool to see. You know, maybe Amazon Prime. I mean, nobody gives Amazon Prime any love. And Amazon Prime, I feel, is very underrated. I mean, geez, all the stuff they have on there. I mean, everybody's kind of sleeping on it. You know, they got the Childish Gambino show on there. They just have Suspiria. I sound like a Dudley boy. Each time I think about whenever I stutter, I don't know how many of you guys watch wrestling. I can't help but talk about wrestling right now because I was kind of looking at old school wrestling videos. But it kind of reminds me of the Dudley Boys whenever I stutter. It kind of reminds me of Bubba Ray. I don't know if you guys remember Bubba Ray Dudley, if you guys watched wrestling back in the days. But Bubba Ray used to stutter a lot. And it was funny because it was one time the Dudley Boys, they were wrestling The Rock and Mankind, which is Mick Foley and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And I remember before the match even happened, Bubba Ray was kind of talking smack to The Rock. And he was just like, do you know who you're talking to? We're the and The Rock interrupts him and goes, it doesn't matter. Oh, man. That shit was hilarious. I swear, The Rock had a lot of hilarious shit back in the days, like catchphrases and everything. And it was funny how he used to fuck with Jonathan Coachman a lot, or even just Michael Cole. But I feel like Coach had it the worst. The Rock stayed roasting him. I swear. But yeah, all off the tangent now. But yeah, Chucky aiming for 2020. So can't wait till that comes out. And the last bit of news that we're going to talk about adjacent fan fiction that's been on YouTube for a minute. We're not talking about Michael versus Jason. I hope you guys are watching that, by the way, because that's a really good film. But I'm going to talk about another film that also needs its very due diligence and praise also, and maybe just its respects for being one of the fan fictions that should be modeled after. And I'm talking about Never Hike Alone. Now, this movie came out in 2017, And over the years, it actually won a couple of awards. So it won an award for Best Feature at the Idaho Film Festival. It also won Best Special Effects at the Horror Hound Film Festival. But not only that, like, ever since its release, it's now garnered up 800,000 views on YouTube. And on an episode of the Barnyard podcast, they talked to director Vicente DeSanti, who also played Jason in the film. And he expressed that he wanted to make a sequel. So what he broke out into the interview was that just because everybody liked the first film a lot, he was interested in making a sequel, and that he was already writing one after the first film was finished. Unfortunately, because of funding issues to create the film, it has been a problem for him to trying to make this idea into life. So his conclusion was creating episodes for it. So now what he's planning on doing is creating a series of episodes for this movie now. And right now he's garnering up enough funding from Indiegogo to kind of create these episodes. And he's planning on reprising the roles of Tommy Jarvis and Kyle, who were in the film. Now, Tommy, if everybody knows, is actually one of the real characters played by Thomas Matthews, I believe, in the Friday the 13th films in 4, 5, and 6. And he actually reprised his role in this fan fiction. And it was good to see like a familiar face play in the Friday the 13th movies that everybody kind of sees as well known. I actually watched the movie earlier, and I gotta say, it was a really good film. I mean, it was shot very beautifully. It did not seem like a fan fiction. I felt like I wasn't watching a fan fiction at all, just based on how good the cinematography was and the camera work and the editing and everything. I gotta admit, I mean, this is definitely a film everybody should model after. So yeah, I mean, this one, I mean, if you guys never watched Never Hike Alone, definitely check that one out. It's definitely worth the watch. I mean, you'll feel like you're not watching a fan fictional movie at all. You actually feel like you're watching the real Friday the 13th movie. I mean, especially the way they got Jason down and got his makeup down. It was good. It was really good. Yeah, but that's it for the news for today. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about All That We Destroy and how it ranks in the Into the Dark series rankings that I'm creating.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
Alright, as you guys know, I am ranking the Into the Dark series each episode from best to worst out of the ones that just came out so far. So this month came out their Mother's Day episode, which is called All That We Destroy. It is starring Aurora Perrineau, Israel Broussard, Samantha Mathis, and Dora Madison. And this is a film directed by Chelsea Stardust. So the premise of this film is a mother who is a geneticist, and she is trying to cure her son's murderous tendency by cloning his first victim, which is Aurora Perrineau. The mother, played by Samantha Mathis, her character is Victoria. And the son is played by Israel Broussard, whose character's name is Spencer. And what we learn in this movie is a lot of very interesting things. So the setting is pretty much based on a not too far distant future. I guess it's supposed to be like either 5 or 10 years down the line, which is very interesting that they did this But in this not too distant future, cloning organs have become a thing now where it's now legalized and people aren't too opposed against it. Not only that, iPhones have come a long way that everything now is crystallized glass. Now FaceTime is a virtual reality sim that you could actually be right next to the other person, which you see with Samantha Mathis when she's having a talk with apparently or supposed to be Spencer's father, who is played by Frank Whaley. What's also interesting now is that if you're Google searching someone, you can now use facial recognition, and man, that has to say a lot about privacy and security in the world nowadays. So I mean, you could truly say that this is a sci-fi horror masterpiece in a way. Well, I mean, I guess we got to use the word masterpiece very loosely. Oh man, but yeah, I'm gonna go over like some of the marks of like areas that I'm grading. Usually I grade everything by acting, story, cinematography, and blood and gore. So let's first off talk about the acting in this film. I would have to say it's decent as far as like trying to get into the story and believe in these characters. My only gripe most of the time was Samantha Mathis's acting. I just felt like her acting was very robotic in a sense that she just didn't give me that much of a believability to where I'm just like believing in her character. And it's not so much as like just her talking. It's more of like her emotions to certain behaviors. Say like she's frustrated, she still has this robotic tone to her voice. Say like she's upset or she wants to cry, she still sounds very robotic in her tone and just how she talks. I mean, you got to give it to Aurora Perrineau. I'm gonna have to say who probably was one of the standouts to this film as far as acting wise is concerned. Dora Madison, her acting was pretty decent. I mean, her character was mainly bubbly, and maybe there are parts of the movie where she shouldn't be so bubbly, especially in the scene when she's talking to Spencer about her medical issues with when she used to see a therapist and whatever. And the way she kind of talks about her therapist or her trips to therapy was more of a sense, as it seemed like more of a joke than it was a traumatizing experience, as it would possibly be for most people who probably had to seek out therapy, maybe in a sense of, you know, maybe not traumatizing, but more of a introspective, what's the word I'm looking for? An introspective knowledge of self, maybe not really just like hurt or anything, but just that you finally got a grip of yourself, maybe some sort of relief, and that you gain perspective. But I just felt like her character kind of took it more of a joke. It was Israel Broussard. His acting was decent also. You could kind of see the descent of his madness as being this kid who wants to be better from this disease where he's caused to kill people because he has such a murderous tendency. But yeah, you kind of get a sense of his descent, especially in each scene where he's kind of like descending more and more into like violent outbursts and incoherent rage. So I thought that was very interesting. The story, on the other hand, I thought the story was really what was solid. I thought the story was really solid as far as what they were trying to give you. they were trying to give you the conflict of the mother's love, that she had to balance between that and doing the right thing, or just maybe even just balancing her love for her son and scientific research. And you kind of see that inner conflict, especially when she's dealing with Spencer, when he's trying to break free from it and trying to have like a normal life, where he's trying to get to know Dora Madison's character, Marissa, as more as just like a friend. But you have Samantha Mathis' character, Victoria, kind of holding him back from trying to pursue that relationship because of his past transgressions towards like committing violence towards people he grows close to. So I thought the story was really well, especially with the whole thought about the idea of trying to cure somebody's violent tendency through cloning their first victim, to hopefully see that maybe after a while killing this person, maybe they'll change their behavior and finally see people as what they are, as just human beings that are meant to be appreciated and not treated as, I don't know, like, what's the word? I had an idea. I was on a good run for a moment. But just a crash test dummy, I don't know. But it's very interesting to see that the story was definitely good. So was the cinematography. I really felt like the cinematography was really good, especially when you go into like the FaceTime talk between Victoria and Parker, and you get this idea of like the whole glitches. Like, I don't know how many of you guys actually do FaceTime with a person, but you know how like it usually lags, or you get that bad fuzzy blurry look because someone got bad internet. To get that whole glitch look from the virtual reality and the lagginess in the movie really does give you an idea of what could possibly happen a few years down the line when FaceTime becomes a little bit more advanced. And not only was the shots from that was good, but also the shots from Ashley's nightmare, they do seem very menacing when you get to see like, well, when she starts recalling her past attacks that was brought onto her from Spencer, you get to see like this whole menacing dreamlike world that she's being placed in, and it was really good. So the cinematography was great. The only downside, besides the acting also, which was kind of decent, but the body count was just horrible. I mean, after a while, I really couldn't stand the fact seeing Aurora Perrineau getting her head banged on the ground so many times. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be like serial killers who have like a signature move or whatever. But after a while, just seeing Spencer bang Aurora Perrineau's head so many times on the ground, it grows stale after a while. Just to see her die a bunch of times was very interesting, but it just made me feel like for Spencer, who is supposed to be this kid who has violent tendencies or murderous tendencies, how come he didn't take the opportunity of killing her different ways? But besides him killing her different ways, I mean, my God, how menacing is it to hear the babies being played over and over again? I mean, my goodness, it's definitely menacing to hear it. But yeah, besides that, I mean, the gore was probably the worst. I mean, it was kind of rewarding to see him take a different killing method when he did kill Dora Madison's character in the movie, but it was also sad to see what happened to Aurora Perrineau's character after all the mayhem and chaos that ensued in her, I guess, imprisonment, if you have to say, with this family and being brought back to life several times. But in closing, as far as a ranking, I had to rate this at a 3.4 out of 5, and it is now 4th from The Body, Puka, and Treehouse, which all have solid 4s. And following behind All That We Destroy is down I'm Just Fucking With You, New Year, New You, and Flesh and Blood, which is still at the bottom. And I have to say, like, this movie was very interesting as far as a sci-fi point of view with this stance. I would have to say this is probably one movie I really enjoyed besides Puka and Treehouse and The Body. Well, I mean, yeah, those top 3, I mean, obviously I enjoyed it. But, yeah, this is one movie I enjoyed for what it was bringing to the table. The clash between Spencer and his mom, that was definitely bringing some emotional appeal to it. Just to see how hard it was to have her try and do the right thing by stopping her son, or even just like maybe having to have her son get killed or even arrested, then to, well, not then, but to trying to cure him by bringing his victim back to life in the most Frankensteinish way possible. I mean, I would have to say this was one movie that really brought like a family tension the way it should be brought in a film, compared to Flesh and Blood, who also was dealing with the same kind of issues, but instead of like a father trying to cure his daughter, it was his daughter trying to convict her father or even stop her father from creating more victims. But other than that, I mean, yeah, you guys, if you haven't checked out All That We Destroy, I would advise you guys to check it out, form your own opinion about it. Let me know in the comment sections what you think about it. So right now, I'm about to take a quick break again, and we are going to go into the outro of the show.
Wendy, darling, light of my life, I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in.
Alright, y'all. We back in the building. Of course, it's your boy. Alright, you know me, I always gotta act silly for a while. But we're now in the outro of the show, and as you guys know, for those that usually listen to the show, all 7 of you guys. But yeah, we usually have a meme of the week and a must-watch movie to watch for the week that I'm gonna give you guys. So first off, let's talk about our meme of the week. So our first meme of the week is from a Hellraiser movie. I can't remember which Hellraiser movie this is from. I know it's either from 2 or 3 because I remember this guy's face. But it's a face of a guy being hooked in a sadomasochistic way from Hellraiser. And in the caption it says, when they're tearing your soul apart, but you're trying to stay positive. Oh man. That one was funny. I had to really put that one up there for you guys this week because I thought that one was very interesting. And for our must-watch movie of the week, we have Gerald's Game, which is based off a Stephen King novel. Yes, I watched that movie a few weeks ago, and I thought it was very interesting to see this woman being trapped inside this little getaway after having rapey sex with her husband. Yes, and I'm dead ass serious. I mean, they don't really give you that in the trailer, that he was trying to fake rape her, but yeah, it was a fake rape gone wrong, and he ended up having a heart attack, and now she's stuck in the getaway home with a fucking hungry dog and shit who might eat her up and shit. And a fucking monster who might be real or not, that is going to kill her. So yeah, I mean, we really did not get all of this in the trailer. I mean, I really wondered how this movie was gonna go for 2 hours. I'm not giving too much away because those things are very minuscule in a way as far as like information, and you guys really just gotta check this movie out because it gets real crazy with all the things that we learn from this movie. I mean, fuck, man. Chucky, what do you say about this movie?
Fucking nuts.
Alright, you know I had to bring that one out for you guys. I know how much you guys love Chucky. I love Chucky too, man. That's why I can't wait till this show comes out. I can't wait till this movie comes out. I'm really excited for this new Child's Play movie. I mean, honestly, after seeing the doll, you know, in its full entirety form of when it's a good guy doll, looks good. It looks good. Now, I just want to see what this doll look like when it starts talking and when it becomes evil. And hopefully it doesn't look too cheesy. But I bet you that's what a lot of people probably thought about the 80s Chucky movies, man. I don't know. It's just like with fucking Halloween. The first Halloween wasn't a hit. So, who knows? Maybe this remake won't hit right away. Maybe it'll hit later on. I don't know. But either way, I'm signing out for today. This is another episode of Let's Talk About Horror with your boy Walterdoom. You guys know where to find me. Holla at me on Instagram. Follow me on there, Walterdoom. If you guys like the content, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave comments and all that shit. And then I'll see you guys next week. So yeah, this is Walterdoom. I'm even fucking up on my own name. What the fuck is wrong with me today? Oh man, I must be getting tired, y'all. But anyway, this is your boy Walterdoom signing out for another episode of Let's Talk About Horror. This is America. Don't let them motherfuckers catch you slipping. Watch out for Uncle Sam too. Peace.